My former best friend married my daughter. My now former best friend, Greg, and I have known each other since we were 8 years old. We grew up on the same street. We were best men at each other's weddings. When his wife died 12 years ago from breast cancer, I was the one who spoke at her funeral. When my youngest son was born with a heart defect, he paid for half the medical bills without me even asking. Greg is a lawyer. He owns a big law firm downtown. My oldest daughter, Emma, is now 26 and became a lawyer herself 3 years ago. I asked Greg if he had any openings at his firm, and he said he'd be happy to bring her on as an intern. She started there in June 2021. I got her that job. Greg has been widowed for over a decade, but I didn't think anything of it. He's my best friend. He was there when Emma was born. He held her in the hospital when she was 2 hours old. He taught her how to ride a bike when she was 6 because I was working double shifts. He was Uncle Greg. They eventually started dating, and I only found out after they got engaged last year. My wife found the ring first. Emma left it in our bathroom when she visited for Christmas. My wife called me at work, crying. She said, "There's an engagement ring in Emma's purse. I don't know who it's from. She hasn't mentioned anyone." We confronted her that night. I asked her who she was engaged to. She wouldn't tell me at first. She kept saying, "You're going to be mad." "I don't want to tell you." I said, "Just tell me." She said, "Greg." I thought she meant a different Greg. I said, "Greg who?" She said, "Greg, your Greg." I said, "Greg? My best friend Greg? The one who's known you since you were born?" She said, "Yes." I lost it. I started yelling. I called her stupid. I called him a predator. I told her she was throwing her life away on a man who's going to die before she turns 50. My wife was sobbing. Emma was crying and yelling back at me that I don't understand, that he loves her, that age is just a number. I called Greg that night. He answered on the first ring. I said, "What the fuck did you do?" He said, "I love her." I said, "You watched her grow up. You held her when she was a baby." He said, "I know this is hard for you to understand." I said, "You're 54 years old. She's 25. You're my best friend." He said, "I was your best friend. I'm her husband now." I said, "You're not married yet." He said, "We will be, and there's nothing you can do to stop it." I tried everything. I talked to Emma again the next day. I asked her how it started. She said it was gradual, that they started having lunch together at work, then drinks after work, then dinners. She said she made the first move. She kissed him first. I asked her if she understood how this looked. She said she didn't care how it looked. She said she loved him. I asked her if she thought about the future, about him being 70 when she's 40, about him needing a caretaker when she should be living her life. She said they'd deal with it. I asked her to just wait 1 year before getting married. She refused. She said they'd already waited long enough. I told her if she married him, she'd be choosing him over her family. She said I was the one making her choose. She moved out a week later, packed up all her stuff from her apartment and moved into his house, the house where we used to have barbecues, where our families celebrated holidays together. My wife tried to stay neutral at first. She thought maybe this was a phase. But when Emma sent the wedding invitation, she broke down. The wedding was set for August. We weren't invited as guests. The invitation was sent to us as a courtesy, so we'd know. That's what Emma's email said. "I wanted you to know as a courtesy." I wrote her back and said, "You're marrying a man who's old enough to be your father. You don't get to talk about courtesy." She didn't respond. My younger daughter sided with me. My son tried to stay out of it, but eventually told Emma he thought she was making a mistake. My wife's parents were horrified. Greg's own kids from his first marriage refused to come to the wedding. His daughter is 32, 6 years older than Emma. She called me after she found out and apologized. She said she was ashamed of her father, but none of it mattered. They got married in August. I saw photos on Facebook from Emma's friends who went. She wore white, he wore a suit. They looked happy. I haven't spoken to her since March. 2 days ago, I got a text from my younger daughter. "Emma's pregnant. She told me not to tell you, but I thought you should know." I stared at that text for 20 minutes. My daughter is pregnant with my 55-year-old former best friend's child, a man who babysat her, a man who drove her to soccer practice, a man who was at every single one of her birthday parties until she turned 18. I called Greg's law firm yesterday. I asked to speak to him. His secretary said he wasn't available. I said, "Tell him it's about Emma." She put me through. He answered, "Hello." I said, "She's pregnant." He said, "Yes." I said, "You got my daughter pregnant." He said, "She's my wife." I hung up. I've contacted my lawyer. I'm removing her from my will.